Hello everyone, it's Nicole from Bright Star Astrology here, and a very warm welcome to the Vedic Astrology forecast for the month of June. Now, this year is really a year of two halves. We've had the first half with Mars debilitated, Mercury was debilitated, we had a huge pile-up in Pisces that some of us may still be reeling from. But the good news is that we're moving into the second half of the year now, where Saturn is left to recover in Pisces on its own, aspecting the signs of Taurus, Virgo and Sagittarius. Jupiter is now settling in Gemini in the nakshatra of Margashira, which is an intellectual nakshatra. It's ruled by Mars, so it's also a very assertive nakshatra. We're intellectually assertive, asserting ourselves in our communications, before Jupiter then moves on into Ardra on the 11th of June. And Ardra is the nakshatra of the teardrop. So there's a lot of emotional depth attached to this nakshatra. It's ruled by the sign, by the planet of Rahu, and it's a somewhat volatile and chaotic nakshatra. And Jupiter's expansion. So there might be some expansion of all of this chaos, but through our intellect we'll be able to get through that. Ardra also signifies storms and transformation, so we'll probably see that happening in all of our lives to some extent. For example, the last time Jupiter was in this nakshatra in 2013, there were a lot of typhoons and significant autumn storms here in the UK, for example, and Edward Snowden leaked what the US does on mass surveillance. So this time Rahu also aspects Jupiter in this placement, so it magnifies events. So on a world level, we may see some of these slightly more destructive events magnified before things start really recovering. But the good news is, in any case, that Mars is finding its way out of debilitation on the 6th of June. It'll take a few days to recover and catch its breath from this long period of debilitation in Cancer that began in October last year, and regain some of the energy and more importantly the confidence that in some of us may have been lacking. Then we also have Venus in Aries, we've got the Sun in Taurus, we've got Mercury in Taurus, before those planets shift on into a Gemini mid-month, and Venus also ends the month in Taurus. I'm also a big fan of paying close attention to the moon phases, which isn't strictly a Vedic technique, but I really think it's very valuable. So we have the first quarter moon happening in Leo on the 3rd of June, the full moon in Scorpio on the 11th, which is a Gandanta moon, so it's quite a full-on intense moon where, you know, wherever it's placed in your chart, you may be feeling like you're almost drowning or struggling to you know, swim through the mud and get some clarity in your life. So, you know, it might just be a very intense few days. Then we've got the last quarter moon in Pisces on the 19th, which is conjunct Saturn. So it's another wake-up call, another, you know, reality check, realizing or, you know, finalizing something that already began back in late 2023. It's coming to its last, you know, entering the last steps before the new moon in Gemini that's actually going to be conjunct Jupiter on the 25th. So it's an action-packed month, a month full of changes, and whenever so many planets change signs, it's a very busy time because new things come into our lives and we have to adjust to new things. But let's see what it means for all of us individually. So Aries, this is your chart for the month, at least the beginning of the month. And you, along with Scorpio, can probably really breathe a bit of a sigh of relief as the month goes on. Venus is in your first house, so you'll be feeling more romantic. You might want to spend some money on yourself, especially with the Sun and Mercury in the second house still. But the focus is going to be very much on family, wealth, earned income, especially during the time of the full moon on the 11th, which falls into your 8th house. So some intense feelings, but focusing on tax matters, inheritance, other people's money, your husband's money, partner's money, while Rahu settles down in your 11th house now. So again, this is a financial house. It's time to dream big, making new connections that perhaps help you financially. Strong desire to follow your dreams at this time. Strong desire to make new friends, meet new people, potentially also romantically. Jupiter aspects your 7th house now, so this is a time for romance for you. And your ruler Mars is settling in the 5th house at Leo. I'm not going to focus too much on the conjunction with Ketu. Yes, it's an explosive conjunction, but really it's going to happen more in July than it is in June. You'll still have some time to, have a bit of fun, recover some of that energy that you may have lost. There's a strong desire for children and romance, but this month and also in July, I would probably say prepare rather than fully go for it, because there may be some struggles around conceiving. Later on in the year especially is a much better time for that. So there may be some delays there, or at least the recognition of there being delays might be there. Still, there's some restlessness that Mars now brings with it as it moves closer to Ketu. But it's going to be a very busy second half of the month with work stuff, communications, neighbors. You may be getting together with your neighbors. You may be thinking about short distance travels, training courses, but some of you may also be preparing for some sort of a house move or house renovations. That's going to be much more of a focus towards the end of the year and also next year. So the last quarter moon is conjunct Saturn on the 19th, and it connects your 12th and 3rd house. So again, it's to do with communication about foreign travels, communications about maybe applying for a job far away or connecting to people that live on the other end of the world, for potentially training purposes, or if you're considering moving elsewhere. So there's something that comes to an end around this time, or the final steps are being put in place. But Aries, you'll feel a lot more optimistic, and I suppose you'll also have a lot more energy than you have had in the first half of the year. So have a great month. So Taurus, Taurians, you really are hitting the big time career-wise and also financially. You've got Rahu, the planet of desires and expansion, in your 10th house. You've got Saturn in your 11th house, which is not a bad placement at all. And Saturn in Pisces is also not a bad placement. And you've got Jupiter in your 2nd house, aspecting the 10th house. So whenever there's so much focus on one area of the chart, things are happening. So for you, Taurus, you're really coming into the money, and you're probably moving towards some sort of a career highlight. You're probably reaching some sort of a peak career-wise. This has an impact on your living situation, so you may be thinking about moving. If it's not this year, then over the course of the next 18 months, there will be some changes at home, perhaps with your mother, your living situation. But for now, just really look forward to gaining some recognition at work. You've had Saturn in your 10th house, so you've already gone through changes at work, perhaps had a new boss or people leaving, or you've changed career. If you haven't changed, then you will now. And with the Sun and Mercury in your sign, at least for the first half of the month, make the most of it and apply for those jobs, go for those interviews, and it's really looking quite positive for you. Mars is moving into your 4th house, so this can be a little bit of a stressful aspect at home. You may feel a little bit irritable at work, perhaps because work is so busy. Perhaps you want to focus on work because you want to, go after the jobs you want to go to. But there can be some, sudden changes at home, just for you to be aware of that. At the same time, perhaps in preparation for a house move or house renovations, you're sorting through your finances, selling, buying property, looking at how to finance a property, which should be perfectly doable this year with Jupiter in your 2nd house. Jupiter also rules your 11th house, the house of gains, so you've really got it coming your way, Taurus. So it's really looking like this is a month when things finally start moving into the direction you've been working towards for quite some time. So Gemini, what a great time you're going through right now. You're super busy at work. At the same time, you're remodeling your entire life. And you're learning a lot of new things. You want to travel. You're more curious than you have been for a long time, and you want to gather a lot of new impressions. You want to experience new things through travels, at work, personally. When it comes to relationships, this really is a time for relationships for Geminis. You may have been in some sort of a holding pattern when it comes to relationships, and perhaps even work-wise. But this is such an optimistic time for you, and such a fortunate placement that you've got Jupiter in your 1st house now. Jupiter rules your house of partnerships and your house of career. So the next year is a much, much happier and outgoing and prosperous time for you than it potentially has been for quite some time. Now, it's not going to be completely smooth sailing at work. You're going to, face some challenges and some delays, but hey, when do we not face that at work? But this is really a time when you're in the spotlight, and even if there are changes at work, you're going to work through them and you're going to come out much stronger. There's a new moon towards the end of the month, which is in your sign, and it's also conjunct Jupiter. So this is really a new beginning for yourself in terms of relationships, but also potentially in terms of finances, how to make money from your own efforts potentially. Maybe a lot of Geminis are perhaps self-employed, freelancing. But if you've been waiting for money to be paid to you, this is the time when, you should really see a lot of movement in that area. It might also be the time that coincides with a new work situation, new work contracts. Your ruler is in the 2nd house at this time. So, money and how to earn money and where to earn money is definitely going to be on your mind. Now Mars is moving into the 3rd house. This is a placement where you may want to be a bit more careful when you're driving and in communications with your siblings or in communications in general, I suppose. You've had Mars in your second house for a long time, so you've been quite assertive, and you know, this pattern kind of continues, especially as Mars moves closer to Ketu. So there can be some really explosive, you know, arguments or communications. But yeah, just be mindful of this pattern that's evolving over the next few weeks. But in any case, you'll have a lot of energy and a lot of initiative, especially also when it comes to sports. So some of you may be getting into competitive sports or becoming a bit more competitive, and it's definitely a good time for that. When it comes to applying for a new job, this can take some time, but it's really an excellent transit, because not only do you have Saturn in your 10th house, you've got Jupiter in your sign, which is also your 10th house, but Mars is also going to aspect the 10th house. So there's a huge amount of focus actually on the 10th house, your house of karma. You know, it's really a time for you to find your not just profession or new job, but your vocation as well. A lot of emphasis is going to be put into this area, and a lot of effort as well. But yours, really, Gemini, yours is my favorite chart at the moment, and things really are happening for you. You've got so many planets in angles, and this always means something's happening, life is moving forward. Enjoy, Gemini, it's a great time. So hello, Cancer, welcome, and welcome to the month of June for you. Mars is now moving out of your sign, which is maybe a welcome move. It's moving into your second house. Some of you may have been feeling quite energetic, you know, and feeling a lot braver than you have been, a lot more aggressive. Maybe some people were taken aback by that, especially your partner. But you've perhaps also been feeling a little bit more irritable. And Mars is moving into the second house of income, of family, of speech, of your eating habits now. So this is really a time to tackle financial matters. With Saturn having gone through your 8th house, this has probably been a pattern for quite some time now. You've now got Rahu in the 8th house. So don't let any financial anxieties overcome you. Mars now gives you the courage and the impetus, and probably also the need to sort that out. So you're going to be putting a lot of energy and focus into these areas: family matters, financial matters, and what you eat and how you communicate. Just watch for some explosive arguments in and around the family. If you can avoid that, that would probably be good. As you know, home life and family life might not be so smooth sailing, perhaps even to do or based on the money or financial issues that you are having to work through. Now, the full moon in Scorpio is in your 5th house, the 5th house of children, of creativity, of investments, of past life karma, of your mind and how you think. So this is the ruler of your sign, and it's debilitated in Scorpio. So just watch out for some really intense emotions. Keep your cool, and you know, whatever began in mid-December 2023 and continued in September 2024 is kind of coming to a close now. You'll have all the information that you need to make decisions. Perhaps, you know, it has to do with even conceiving. So you're taking the last steps to get to this point now. And once Jupiter's in your sign towards the end of the year, and especially next year, you'll get to where you want to get in that respect. The second half of June is kind of marked by planets gathering in your 12th house. So this is going to be a little bit more of an introspective period. You're reaching out to some people far away that, perhaps live on the other end of the world. You may be thinking about learning something new, hiding away to finish your course, submit your papers, do your writing, whatever it is. It's going to be a bit of an introspective time, but you'll probably feel very happy to succumb to that at this point, given how, perhaps potentially stressful the last 6 months have been for you. So I'm wishing you a great month, Cancer. Sort out your finances, your wills, your tax, your mortgages, and you'll be glad you've got that sorted. Welcome, Leo, to June 2025. So Leo, really for you, a whole new cycle begins now. After 9 years of Ketu in your 7th house, Ketu is now arriving in your 1st house. So the last time Ketu was in Leo was in late 2006 to mid 2008. So remember what you did back then, what you went through, how you emerged as a new person. You're going through a similar rebirth now. At times there will be a sense of detachment, perhaps even self-doubt, as you seek validation through new and exciting relationships that are coming your way. These may be unconventional relationships. Something new and exciting in that area is happening. You've had Saturn going through your 7th house, so you've already sorted out your relationships. You've found your boundaries. And if some of you are leaving a relationship, this will slowly you're going to emerge as a new person as you emerge from a long-term relationship, for example. Yes, you will be going through some times when you have to sort out finances, finalizing agreements and so on. But this is a time when really something new in relationships and partnership contracts is coming your way. Now, these contracts can also have to do with your workplace. The 7th house is the 10th from the 10th. So Rahu in this position means something new at work is also happening, a new work environment, new work situation. But in any case, there's a really intense desire for something new in relationships, in partnerships. You're aware something needs to change and you want to gain more clarity. This placement is also about karmic relationships. They may not last, so take your time when you meet someone new and retain some of independence for a little while anyway. Now, the other significant placement is Jupiter. That's now in your 11th house of friendships and gains. So this is a really good placement to make new friends, meet new people. It's also aspecting your 7th house. So again, the 7th house, there's a lot of emphasis on that. So luck in relationships, luck around friendship groups. Maybe some people that around in your friendship groups that offer you really good advice when it comes to relationships, and maybe you want to take that advice at this moment in time. So yeah, Leo, it's a month focusing on relationships, changes at work, and expanding your network circle. There's also a new moon happening in your network circle and in the area to do with your hopes and dreams. So new beginnings around that, and it should be quite an exciting month for you to go out and meet new people as you go through all these personal changes. Have a good one. Now Virgo, my goodness, you're busy. Life is full, and it's full of changes for you. Saturn in your 7th house of relationships means that you're finally making up your mind about what you want in relationships over time. this is an aspect when Saturn is in this area of your chart. It gains a lot of directional strength. It feels very comfortable in the 7th house, and your relationships are growing and solidifying. Your relationships are maturing, and there's a much deeper commitment that you have had for a very long time, and you yourself are taking on a much more serious approach to relationships. Virgo, as other mutable signs, is prone to changing their mind a lot, but no more. You are committed now, your partner is committed, and even if there are some obstacles, Saturn feels very comfortable in this place. So a lot of Virgos are really thinking about getting married or entering just a very significant relationship at this time. It aspects your 4th house, so there's also changes at home. Maybe you're moving in with your partner, making some significant changes in the home, and at the same time, this is also an area in your chart that has to do with work. It's a 10th from the 10th, so Bhavat Bhavam principle. So yes, changes at work, but a lot of opportunities and a lot of consolidation or job security that maybe you haven't had for quite some time. Jupiter's in the 10th house now. There's also a new moon in Gemini on the 25th of June in your 10th house. So you've got such a beautiful placement for new job opportunity, recognition at work, more growth at work, professionally, career advancements, new responsibilities, leadership roles. Your skills and your expertise are recognized and in demand, and others might come to you for advice. So stop overthinking, Virgo, and really seize these opportunities for growth. You've also got Rahu, the planet of expansion, but sometimes, some erratic expansion in your 6th house. So you may be unusually competitive, but successful at it. So if you're going for a new job, really do it now, Virgo. Don't hesitate any longer. This is such a great time to really secure that position that you've wanted. Equally, you may be getting a little bit obsessed with your health. And maybe you've got reason to do that. Just watch out for, any niggling health issues. You may want to have them checked out before the eclipses hit your 6th house later on in the year. A great month for you, Virgo, professionally and relationship-wise. Things are happening for you. Enjoy. So Libra, welcome to your June horoscope. I'm going to start with Jupiter, the planet of expansion, and good luck settling down in your 9th house now. So the 9th house is all about higher education, luck, your fortune, traveling, long distance traveling, but also learning about, philosophies, the higher meaning in life. And in Vedic astrology is also the area of your father. So there's some, good fortune attached to all of those areas. There's some support from others that you might get. You'll get good advice from others, from your father, from people that you feel can teach you something. So there's something really positive attached to all of those areas, and also a lighter mood than you may have been in. Jupiter also aspects your sign. It aspects the 5th house, so you'll be feeling a lot more optimistic, maybe also perhaps feeling a bit better within yourself. You've still got Saturn. Well, you now have Saturn in your 6th house, so there might be some health issues that are bogging you down, but it might just be also that you're very busy at work. But this placement of Jupiter should really help lighten the mood a little bit, and especially if you're traveling, you get out of your rut and see something else. So this is a positive placement. And for those Libras trying to conceive, this is also a good time to start thinking about doing that. I think a lot of Libras are going to achieve that, especially later on when the eclipses hit your 5th house. Yes, it can mean some obstacles. It can mean that you may, have to try again and again, but Jupiter will be there to support you in this journey. Now, I'll just briefly talk about Saturn again. Saturn is now alone in the 6th house. There's been such a focus on work and health, and you may have had some niggly health issues or maybe some bigger health issues. But Saturn here now, helps you to work through those issues, and it forces you to focus on them if you haven't already done so. But it's also a placement for debt reduction. So if you're looking to reduce what you owe other people, then this is the time to do that. There's also, something about increasing responsibilities at work. So be mindful of not getting too overworked, especially later on in the year. But Rahu in your 5th house, it's a time for romance and children, but potentially through some unconventional circumstances. Still, as I said, you may be facing some challenges. Things may feel a little bit volatile and sudden, but things are evolving, and you have Jupiter on your side to help you through these, steps you need to take to launch your creative projects or, bring that child that you desire into your life. Scorpio, welcome to your June 2025 forecast. Now, Scorpio, you've got Jupiter in your 8th house now. This signifies some sudden events in terms of finances, family wealth, your partner's money, tax, insurance, inheritance, all of these things. There's a spotlight on these things, and it's going to expand. So, Jupiter rules your 5th house, and Jupiter also rules your 2nd house. So investments and how to increase your earnings and the earnings of your partner is definitely going to be a focus. Now, Rahu in your 4th house means that you're looking at some sort of a move, some sort of a home renovation, perhaps even expansion of your family. There's some changes around your childhood home, and some Scorpios may have to say goodbye to a childhood home, perhaps, especially with, a focus in your 8th house of inheritance, for example, if you can see what I'm trying to get at. But also, there might be an expansion of the home because, there's an addition to the family. You've got Saturn in the 5th house, so there's definitely a focus on children and, turning relationships into something more serious. So you may be setting up home with someone else as relationships get a lot more serious. So the Jupiter in your 8th house is also, you may also have to go and talk to the bank about getting that bigger mortgage that you need for your bigger place. But in any case, you're getting quite serious about education now, or you're developing an interest in education, or the education of your children. So there's also some heavy responsibilities around that can be seen. So the full moon for you, Scorpio, falls in your 10th house of career. Sorry, Scorpio, the full moon is in your 1st house, but it has to do with your career. It puts a spotlight on your career as well as your relationships, but your relationship area is also the 10th house from the 10th. So again, it's putting the spotlight on career. It's a bit of an emotional time, the full moon in your sign, but it brings things to a close to do with your career that began in September 2023 and took another step forward in 2024. So think about what happened then. It might be quite emotional, but it's definitely time to let go what doesn't serve you anymore. So the other positive thing here is that your ruler Mars is finally moving out of debilitation and moving into your 10th house. Again, career related. So again, changes in career, perhaps quite sudden, but you definitely have a strong drive and a lot of ambition now to implement those changes and go for those new opportunities that you've been waiting for quite some time, as you've been in that holding pattern of your ruler being debilitated for so many months. Enjoy, Scorpio. Have a great one. Hi Sagittarius, and welcome to your June 2025 horoscope. Now, your ruler Jupiter is in the area to do with relationships, and there's also a new moon on the 25th in the area of relationships in Gemini coming your way at the end of June. So this is really an excellent time and an excellent transit and a really good new beginning for relationships. If you're single, you might be thinking about getting married or entering a relationship. You'll be looking at a new business collaboration, a new partnership in that area. But in any case, your public image is going to be enhanced, and you're probably also looking at your friendship group that's going to grow. So the ruler of the 7th house is also going to be in the 7th house later on in the month. Venus is in the 5th house of romance. So this is a really, really strong month, Sagittarius, for new relationships or expanding existing relationships. So this is a time of, not just opportunities, but also transformation of relationships. At the same time, Jupiter rules your 4th house of the home, and you've got currently Saturn going through the 4th house. So while you're more open and in the world and meeting new people, there's still this underlying sense that things need to change. You're maturing a lot emotionally over the next 2.5 years while Saturn is going through your 4th house. But it can also just mean on an external level that you're renovating, moving home. Perhaps some of you will have to give up your childhood home, or you're moving to a new place as you expand your relationships, getting married, moving to a new place, these kinds of things. So don't let this underlying sense of perhaps even sadness sometimes get to you too much. Realize this is a massive, massive growth period for you. You're changing as a person. How you interact with others, who you interact with is going to change, and take it as a big but necessary learning curve. Rahu in your 3rd house means you're going to be quite bold in your communications. You're going to be quite ambitious. You've got a lot more courage and self-initiative. You're quite competitive nowadays when it comes to sports and competing with others. Just be mindful that your younger siblings or your neighbors may be going through stuff. Maybe you're going to get new neighbors. Saturn in your 4th house, a home move, you're going to get new neighbors. Your neighbors may be renovating their house and so on. But you'll be doing a lot more traveling as well. New training, new traveling, new interest in technology, enhancing your technical skills, more focus on digital marketing, new tools and so on. So all of that can be part of what you're going through. But I think the home aspect and the moving, renovations, maybe the neighbours doing the same thing, that's really going to be the focus for you. Have a good one, Sagittarius. Now, Capricorn, welcome to June 2025. Now, your ruler, Saturn, has just moved into the 3rd house. So you'll be taking a new approach, or a more disciplined approach to communications, to marketing, training. You're going to take all of these things a lot more serious. Perhaps you're thinking about learning something new to do with, technical subjects. But your younger siblings may also be going through some sort of a growth phase. Or your neighbors are changing their home, or there's something around your immediate environment that is about to change. But in any case, you're applying your hard work now that you've learned, or that you will learn, to achieve your goals. Rahu in the 2nd house now, since the 29th of May, has to do with wealth, family, speech, your eating habits, and all of these things may have a bit more of an unconventional situation to them. So a more fluctuating situation. There might be some foreign opportunities around earning money, or unexpected family dynamics, unconventional eating habits. But the full moon in your 11th house, that rules the 7th, together with combining the 7th and the 8th houses, might just mean that there's a bit more, you're a bit more emotional about relationships and money matters, investments, and achieving joint financial goals. So you're going to have to work through these financial aspects, how to make money, focusing on your side business if you have one, or if that's what you need to do. These things are going to be a big focus for you. So whatever began in September 2023 and took another step in December 2024, this is now coming to a close, or you're reaching the final phases of this. So this is a really powerful aspect actually for wealth creation. If you've had a reduction in your income because Saturn was in your 2nd house for so long, this is the time to recuperate some of that money and identify new opportunities in that area. So with Jupiter in your 6th house, debt management and overcoming those challenges is going to be quite important for you, and indeed possible. You're going to be overcoming all of those obstacles. There might just be a lot of work that you're going to have to focus on, but not to worry. It's probably good that you have work now, as you seek to focus on your finances. Now Mars is in the 8th house of upheavals, and in this area there might be some sudden changes, transformations of joint assets and shared resources. Again, it's just another financial aspect for you that you're going to have to work through. What I would say is, don't become too anxious about these developments. Mars is not going to hover in this sign for a very long time, but it might just be that there might be some sudden ups and downs over the coming 8 weeks as you work through any tax issues, inheritance issues, whatever it is you need to work through. But you'll get there, Capricorn, and you'll be absolutely fine. Now Aquarius, you're going through a whole new phase. Just give me 1 second. This is a phase that you have been, probably anticipating. Saturn in your sign has already given you the need, or you've already matured, you've grown up, you've changed so many things over the last few years, and now you've got Rahu in your sign, and this is really a whole new beginning for you. Your physical appearance might change, your self-image, your overall approach to life. You've got this really powerful urge to redefine yourself now. You're ambitious, you're driven, and you're becoming even more unconventional than you always have been. As I said, you've already had Saturn over your ascendant, and now Rahu. This really is a time for rebirth. There's some sort of a foreign influence to you now. Perhaps you identify yourself with people from different places, or you're interested in people from different places now. But in any case, you're going to change as a person, how other people see you. Now Mars is moving into your 7th house this month on the 6th of June, and you've got Ketu there as well. So really, there's this, I want to say it's a time for relationships, but it's also a time for a lot of change in relationships and sudden changes as well. If you are entering a new relationship now, please take your time. There may be some really kind of explosive situations almost as we move towards July, so make sure you don't get dragged into any arguments there. But really, this is over the next 18 months. Some of you may be facing relationship periods of make and break, but you will certainly be able to attract relationships as the months go on. Now Saturn in your 2nd house now. This is about wealth accumulation, speech, family dynamics, and while Saturn might put a bit of a dampener on your income, at least initially, as you work hard to meeting your financial goals, it's a good time for financial planning. It might be a bit contradictory because Pisces is ruling this house for you. You've got quite an easygoing attitude towards money anyway, but no more. Saturn now wants you to mature in this area. This is the key word here. Saturn wants us to mature. So it also aspects the 11th house from this placement of the house of gains, and it's multi-corner house, so naturally Saturn rules the 11th house. So over time, if you retain this disciplined approach to earning money and putting some savings aside, which might be a new concept for you, but over time you'll put a much more stable financial foundation in place. So it's about savings and building assets, potentially also from property and joint finances, but this is the time to do that. Rahu in the 1st house makes you more of a risk taker, so be mindful not to take too many financial risks. But with Jupiter in the 5th house, some of you may be thinking about romance. Again, it feeds into this focus on your relationships, but romance is on the cards, and Jupiter in the 5th house can also signify a pregnancy, and for a lot of signs it probably comes more easily to you than to others, even though Jupiter in the 5th house isn't said to generally give children very easily. Jupiter kind of creates a little bit of havoc and transformation wherever he goes, but I think the opportunities are definitely there, especially when the new moon hits your 5th house towards the end of June. So Aquarius, have a good one. Hello Pisces, and welcome to June 2025 horoscope, your sidereal horoscope. So according to that system, Jupiter is now in the sign of Gemini, and Jupiter is your ruler in the sign of Gemini in the 4th house. So the 4th house is all about your home, your family life, your childhood home, and it's a great yoga for you Pisces. It's a placement of domestic happiness, property gains, emotional peace, and a sense of contentment. Perhaps that after all the upheaval in March and April and maybe even May, this is really a welcome placement now. You spend more time at home, you feel really comfortable at home, there might be some expansion at home. Some Pisces may even have a new addition to the family, but it's a very, very happy time at home. Even when Saturn is going through your sign, over your ascendant, this is usually quite an isolating time. So again, maybe really you will spend some more time at home, perhaps nursing a new baby, who knows. But this Jupiter really adds to a sense of contentment that maybe Saturn is sometimes taken away from you. So look forward to this period. So your career success is kind of now rooted in your personal life, or you may just be working from home. Again, it feeds into this narrative of spending more time at home and, spending more time behind, not necessarily behind closed doors, but kind of working by yourself, head down, focusing on your home life. I just wanted to again just talk about Saturn in your first house a bit more, because some of you may be worried about that, but really it's just simply a growth period for you, Pisces, and I don't think something to necessarily be worried about. So Saturn rules the 11th house of gains and expenses. So it is a time of self-reflection, but it's also a time of physical discipline and slow and steady progress. So you may have more responsibility generally, or at work, or when it comes to your friendships, or your earning potential and how you earn your money. It aspects the 10th house of career, so there might be some changes there. But Saturn is in an angle, and whenever Saturn is in an angle, Jupiter's also in an angle. It's really a time for movement, for transformation, yes, but things are happening. Jupiter also aspects your 10th house, so career is definitely a focus for you. But don't be scared of Saturn in your first house. It's simply a growth period, a period to mature, professionally and personally for you. So don't be worried about that. Now Rahu is in your 12th house now. It again feeds into this narrative of, behind closed doors, walking behind closed doors. But really it can just be a period where you're more interested in traveling, you're more interested in new learnings, or some of you are thinking of moving abroad permanently, especially with Jupiter in the 4th house. So maybe the new workplace or your current workplace asks you to go abroad for a little while. Just watch out for some expenses coming your way. You've got Venus in the 2nd house, so you may be spending a little bit more on yourself or on any luxuries, but apart from that, there's not a massive focus on your finances. But you may just have to spend more money on a house renovation or a house move. I think that could probably be a realistic option. Mars in the 6th house is a great placement for you now as the month goes on, but you need to potentially also watch for accidents, or don't overdo it when it comes to to exercising, or just be careful in that respect. But you do feel a little bit more energetic now, even if Saturn is in your 1st house. You're driven to work hard. And it's saying don't shy away from competition. You are turning into an authority now, especially at work. So take that time and that opportunity and make it work for you. So this is a month of really significant personal growth and maturation. It's a maturation process combined with this domestic harmony that just requires a little bit of financial management. So Pisces, it's a good time to be a Piscean. Enjoy. you.